We've made this recording to give a flavour of our Sharing the Learning events, bearing in mind a huge proportion of the time was used for sharing the actual inquiries, but hopefully it will give you an idea. Now, in addition to the demanding jobs, you have completed a programme of professional learning to improve outcomes for all learners. We were reminded that middle leaders are crucially important because you're capable of strategic change initiatives for the better and you remain close to the learning. This is a unique leadership role. Please share your learning with your colleagues, with your learners as well, and if you could share on social media. What you've achieved is definitely a cause for celebration. To recap our learning, there were 4 pillars in the MLLC programme. Self-awareness is the basis of effective leadership. To know yourself allows for confidence and for effective delegation in teams. Diversity, well, we've looked at implicit bias and considered the journey to being anti-racist leaders. Diverse teams are effective teams, and the more that you can do on this, the better. In terms of leadership of change, in that section we gave a very practical overview of the different change models, the chance to put these into practice and for them to hopefully scaffold the work that we do in the future. We also had an element of coaching as a model of practice, coaching helping our teams, improving our impact, and hopefully continuing the coaching journey, and Mandy was a huge link for that work. I'm going to ask you to pause for a second. I've included a Padlet link here from one of the sessions, one of the quieter sessions, and if you can grab a phone and catch that QR code, and just think about what learning resonated with you. There are some columns in the Padlet there when you're thinking about MLLC. So what learning resonated with you, what the obstacles were, how you managed to overcome them more importantly, and what might be useful professional learning for your ongoing journey. So if you could add to that Padlet before continuing, that'd be really helpful. I added in another column as well, and it was if Middle Leaders Leading Change were to be purely an online offer, what would your thoughts be around that? So if you can take a minute to think about that, that would be great. After we had completed the Padlet and discussed it, we invited our top dog to come and speak to us, and we had 2 very inspiring speakers on the different nights that we ran our Sharing the Learning events. So we had our Head of Professional Learning and Leadership, who's David Burgess, and we also had our Strategic Director, Ollie Bray, and they both gave great food for thought, and I'm just going to go over some of the main points that were shared. So during the Sharing the Learning events, we were asked to consider these quotes from key pieces of work from each of these 4 academics, and just to think which one resonated most with us in terms of how we see middle leadership. So bearing in mind all that we've learned about it and our experiences of actually doing the job. So if you can pause again and take a moment to read them over and consider which of these you feel is most pertinent and sums up middle leadership for you. Both Ollie and David spoke at length about the sphere of influence for middle leaders, and it was interesting that they both reflected that you may not be aware of the influence you have at the time, but if you think about everyone you work with pupils and parents and carers, with other teachers and colleagues, with senior leaders, those ripple effects can be seen, and sometimes it can be, a while after any of the input that you've had. Having thought about our sphere of influence being significant, we were also reminded of the work we did with Santiago Rincon Gallardo, and the QR code there links to the webinar he did for us during the Scottish Learning Festival, the SLF Conversations last year. And the sort of key point, I think, for middle leaders from his speech, one of the key points is that in that graphic in the middle, we leverage and influence senior leadership. We have an effect on the strategic direction of our establishments and of our settings. We also influence sideways because we collaborate with our peers, like we have done on this programme, and we support our own teams and faculties. All of this we do to get the best outcomes for our learners, and Rincon Gallardo's work does sort of talk about that influence quite a lot. After those keynotes, participants were then sharing their learning in groups, and this is something that you will hopefully be able to do in your settings, in your own departments. You might be able to share your inquiry. You can also do it by sending in your finished inquiry by email. But this slide here shows how we've sort of come full circle, and it just resonated with me that when you come to the end of a programme, you don't really want to think of it as an ending. So we started with Steve Munby and we'll end with these words of wisdom. I think this quote is a reminder that leadership's not always easy, but we do the best we can with the day that we're presented. And certainly professional learning is something that is ongoing, something that never stops. So we were then told that the exit questionnaires will generate your certificate of engagement with the programme. An email has been sent out to all those who didn't manage to attend, detailing how to share your inquiries. The title of your email, MLLC Inquiry, will make sure that it goes to the correct inbox. So you'll find detailed information in the email about that. And then really we were thinking about what comes next. We hope certainly that you'll stay with Education Scotland in your ongoing professional learning journey. We have an array of professional learning activities, more PLAs, as you know, that we are in the process of refining and updating at the moment. There is a great piece of work on coaching, and there are new PLAs that are being devised for that as well, if that's something that you would like to consider. It seemed to be very important at the Sharing the Learning events. There's also a really lovely piece of work on inquiry. It's quite a detailed piece of work. It's on our website as well. We'll be sharing more about that, but that would be a great thing to do with your departments, with your faculties, across across your schools and your settings. The offer is always there for you to share your inquiry in a blog with Education Scotland as well. You can either get in touch with me directly or through the generic email address. And then we've got this really exciting new programme called Leadership of Professional Learning, where it might be that your next leadership initiative would be to have a look at this programme and how you would influence professional learning in your setting. Working together on collective efficacy within your schools and settings. And it might well be that the future for you might move into our Into Headship programme, all of which I would highly recommend. So congratulations and very, very well done for all your additional work this year. I know it's not always easy. We will be keeping the programme area open until the end of August. So you've got until then to finish off your PLAs and to submit your exit questionnaire and submit your inquiry, and that will ensure that you get your certificate. The slide says it all, colleagues. You have been amazing. Thank you so much.